with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so honored and so delighted that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and wherever you find your podcasts. Today, Brooke Young joins us to tell us about the fantastic work being done by our friends at Hindy's Library. Before we invite Brooke into the studio, we want to invite you to connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. And we would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. There's a whole lot of great things going on at readingwithyourkids.com. First, you can download our free Reading With Your Kids magazine. We are so proud of the content we are sharing at this magazine. We are only 2 editions in, and already we're getting so much positive feedback. The magazine is growing. You're going to love it. You don't want to miss it. Get it today. Reading With Your Kids magazine at readingwithyourkids.com. And of course, you can use the Contact Us button at the top of the page to let us know what we're doing well here in the podcast, let us know what we could be doing better, and let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. Join us right now from the great state of Ohio. Our guest is here today to celebrate Hindy's Libraries. It's a really amazing institution that has done so many great things for so many kids. We're going to find out all about it. Please welcome to the show, Brooke Young. Hey, Brooke, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Now, Brooke shared with us, she really is a trooper. She got up off the injured reserve list today. Her voice is on the mend. She's a professional singer, and she hasn't been able to sing for quite a while. But she's she pounded down the tea and the lemon drops and all that stuff so she could be with us here today. Remind us all what Hindy's Libraries are all about.
Absolutely, and it's such a broad question, so I'll do my best to condense it. Really, fundamentally, Hindy's Libraries is in honor of a young teacher who passed away, and it's really honoring her legacy, which was she wanted to support children in learning how to read and having books at their disposal. So it started as a very, very small thing, just a free little library at the school where she taught, and has expanded into something so much bigger. They've donated over 415,000 books to children both in the United States and across the globe who don't have access. So they may be in literacy deserts. They may be in a shelter. They may be in a school where books are scarce. And they come into those organizations and provide them books free of cost to recipients.
Talk to us a little bit. There's so much there that I want to get into, and just the way it's grown. As I recall, Hindy's Library started at a school in Long Island, and now it's really grown. Here you are in Ohio working with them, and I know that they've provided books literally all over the world, and it really is a fantastic testament to somebody that I didn't have the chance to meet, but everything I've heard about her was she was just a wonderful person. But you brought up a term, literacy desert. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I don't think we really are aware of it. We know, there's some places where books aren't as available, but we should know more about them.
I know. And, prior to working with them, I had heard the term literacy deserts, but it was never something that I sat down to research because I had not been personally affected by it. Now, Leslie, the co-founder, would have a little bit more updated statistics, but from what I understand, about 2/3 of low-income families do not have a book that is suitable for that child's age in their home. And so these literacy deserts are places where public libraries are not really available. where the schools might be Title I and they don't really have a lot of books or resources for the children. So they don't have suitable material to read. And when you don't have suitable material to read, you don't read anything. You know, you don't want to read something that's tremendously hard or tremendously too easy for you.
Right.
So this organization is really, really passionate about putting things that are age appropriate. You know, we got to think about that. And then also, you know, we'll stretch that child to learn and grow, you know, within a healthy range for them. We're not going to give a second grader something for a 12th grader.
Right. You know, one of the things that really, it surprised me a lot. It surprised me when I discovered that my wife, who taught in the Boston Public Schools for 34 years, that she was teaching in a school that didn't really have a library. They had a cage where there was a bunch of books, and every so often an aide would go in and kids would line up outside the cage and they would be handed a book. And it was called a library, but it wasn't a library. And so I knew that existed. But I discovered a couple of years ago from one of the interns who was working on the show that 40% of the schools here in my home city of Boston are without school libraries, which blows my mind since the Boston Public Library is the first public library in North America. And we have this great tradition, all these different universities and colleges here in Boston. And then the place where a library is so very, very important, the school, the public school, they don't exist in those schools. So that certainly is a literacy desert. And it sounds like there are way too many of those deserts existing in cities and towns all across America.
Absolutely. And I'm from near Cleveland. Our mayor, who's Justin Bibb, he's done a great, great job with the city. He actually started an initiative over this summer or last summer to help children read, because in Cleveland, those literacy rates are very, very low, both for adults and for children. So Hendy's is really, really focusing on making the efforts, not only within the United States, but globally as well. So they've done some books to Puerto Rico recently, to Africa, to the Middle East, you know, just to make sure that they have access and resources to things that are colorful and age appropriate and exciting. Because if you're a child, you want a book that looks fun to read.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If we want kids to fall in love with reading, we got to give them something to fall in love with.
Yeah, it's got to be sparkly or fun or, you know, whatever it is, but nice. And I wrote a children's book myself. One of the things that kids will comment on a lot, because I do a lot of visits in school, they'll be like, your book has lots of bright colors. So making sure that kids have things that look both exciting. And one of the other big differentiators between Hendy's and other organizations is that the books are either new or they're gently used. So they're not going to be having highlighter pens throughout them. They're not going to have, you know, other people's names on them. They're very passionate about making sure the books are something kids can be very proud of, which I think is very exciting.
Absolutely. Hey, can you remind us a little bit about who Hendy was?
Absolutely. So Dr. Hendy Krinsky, which we got to love that doctor before her name, was an English teacher. And from what I heard about her, I never met her either. People were saying that her children, when they were very young, were reading Harry Potter and Shakespeare, and she was encouraging the children in her class, you know, to learn not only how to read, but how to love books, right? How to love literature. And there's a big distinction between knowing how to read a book and falling in love with reading that book. And they did a great Today Show interview where they brought back her former students, and all of them had the same thing to say. She was so kind. She was so loving, and she made a big impact in the way that they feel about reading, which in turn makes a big impact in the way you feel about life. And she was also a mother to multiple children.
Yeah. And you know that she had to have been a special person, because unfortunately we lose people in our lives all the time. We lose teachers, and we look back and say, oh, that was a great teacher. But there aren't many teachers out there that inspire the community to come together to build an organization that is literally making a difference in kids' lives all over the world. So she touched a lot of people in her life.
She really, really did. And, you know, I wish she was still here. I think she'd be such a great beacon and inspiration, right? With all the things happening in our world, we need to hear something good.
Yeah, yeah. You know, investing in our kids, investing in something like Hindy's Library, investing in school libraries, I think it's so very important. And I think it's really short-sighted when we don't make that investment, because at some point we're going to have to pay the bill at some point. A lot of kids who don't fall in love with reading, who have trouble reading, aren't able to read, they end up getting involved in the criminal justice system, end up in prison, and end up, costing lots more money than what it would cost to invest in making sure they fell in love with literacy when they're in first, second, and third grade.
Mm-hmm. And I've worked with kids for a long time. I have to tell you, I think people are like, oh, kids don't like to learn. Kids love to learn. When they're given a safe, beautiful environment to learn, they get so excited. People are like, are the kids really excited about books? Yes. Yes, they are. They smile, they light up, they get excited. But I think sometimes we can think, oh, children only like their iPad or their video game. That's not true when you give them access to books that excite them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Brooke, how did you get involved? In Ohio, you're busy, you're singing, you're writing kids' books, you're a young person, and how did you end up getting involved with this organization on Long Island?
Absolutely. So it's kind of an odd story, really. I own a PR business, a PR agency, and do some communication consulting. I somehow stumbled across Leslie. I think she reached out to me or potentially got a referral to me. And at first I was very hesitant to take them on because most of my clients were businesses. They were not nonprofits, and that's distinctly different. So I pushed it off and I pushed it off. And one night I was just like, I think I need to take them. So I took a leap of faith, and we've done so much great work together since I came on in 2022. We've done a partnership with Susan Egan, who is the original voice of Belle on Broadway, and Megan Hercules. We've done Zoo Atlanta partnership. We recently did a partnership with Miss America Volunteer. So the girls from the teen and the Miss pageant were shipping their books up to Long Island with little inspirational notes. And then we've kicked off the Females of Fiction contest, which I'm super excited about too, because I'm a judge.
That's really, really, really exciting. I'm wondering if there's folks who are listening who are aware they're living in or near a literacy desert, and they're wanting to connect with Hindy's Library to get books to the kids in their communities. What would they do? How would they reach out?
Sure. And, I know Leslie, the co-founder, and myself, we pride it on being a very, very easy process for the people that reach out to us. And so they could send a message to the Instagram, which is at Hindy's Libraries. They could send a message to the Facebook account if they prefer Facebook, or they could send an email to Leslie at hindyslibraries.org or Brooke at hindylibraries.org. And I'm a Brooke with an E, everybody.
Yeah. And for the folks out there who are excited about this and they want to help, they want to get involved with this, is the best way for them to get involved to donate money or donate books or all of the above?
Yeah, there's so many ways to get involved. For women that are children's book authors, we have a really unique way right now. So we're running a female of fiction contest, and the judges are some great people. We have a TEDx speaker that had a viral TEDx talk in the education and children literacy realm. We have Hidden Gems Emporium, I believe. Anyways, amazing, amazing judges. And the contest really focuses on female children's book authors because, Hindy was a female herself, so we want to pay honor to them. So there's awards for best cover, best illustrations, best story, and there's just a small entry fee that you pay. That entry fee goes to the cost of shipping the books. Now, one thing about Hindy's Libraries is, what do we use the donation money for, right? Because the books are donated to us. The biggest cost that Hindy's has is that shipping. Because you think to yourself, oh, shipping a book isn't very expensive. When you're shipping 50 or 60 books together, it's really expensive. And with this Females of Fiction contest, it's the biggest fundraiser that we hold all year. So we really, really encourage any female children's book authors, any female middle grades authors, definitely check out the contest, see how to get involved. There's wonderful prizes. Barnes and Noble donates us $100 gift cards and whatnot. So definitely get involved with that contest. And then just traditionally, as you said, if people feel called to donate, of course, that's always helpful. And then if you have gently used or new children's books that maybe you don't use anymore, you can always do that too. And then lastly, running book drives. It's not as hard as you think. I promise everybody.
I'm guessing now you mentioned that you have a PR agency. And I know we have lots of authors who are listening to the show, and they might be there going, yeah, I'd like to donate my book, but, it costs me a little bit of money, and what am I going to get? Yeah, I want to be charitable, but I also want to get something out of this. I'm guessing that if their book is selected to be part of this, that would be a way for them to go to their local weekly newspaper and say, hey, my book was chosen to be part of Hindy's Library Women of Fiction, and you get a little bit of PR for them, get a little bit of PR for Hindy's Library, help kids. It sounds like something that could be a
it's such a win-win. And, I worked in TV news. The TV news, everybody in your hometown, they have a 24-hour news cycle. They need you. And so, let's say, just like Jed said, your book's in the contest. It's a great way to go to your local news station and get PR for yourself and your book and PR for the organization. And if anybody has any questions about that, just message the Hindy's Library account. I'll make sure that you understand it because I'm passionate about getting children's book authors out there.
Yeah. I get pitches all the time, literally, that come into me and they go, hi, I wrote a children's book. And that's about all it says. And that doesn't get a lot of attention, especially if it's going to a news station. But if you say, hey, I wrote a children's book, and I've hooked up with this organization that's doing so much to help so many kids all around the world, and I come from your local community, that's going to get some attention.
It does. And, I always say practice makes perfect with pitching. I'm completely self-taught. I did not learn PR from anyone. I just transitioned my journalism background to PR. Most of my early pitches were so bad, so never be afraid to send it, everybody. Mm-hmm. I very boldly sent a cold pitch to Susan Egan's agent. And I was like, look, I really want you to know about this organization. And they ended up doing they ended up doing a fundraiser that was very successful, much more than I even thought. I was like, even an Instagram shout out, and she ended up doing so much more for us. So never be afraid to go for the big ones.
Yeah. And just imagine your book could be the book that changes somebody's life. Your donation to Hindy's Library could make a difference in somebody's life. LeVar Burton was on the show and talking about, literacy, being able to read. It's emancipating. It gives kids the opportunity, the power to change their lives, to change the trajectory of their life. And you could be a part of that by being part of Hindy's Library.
Yes, and it's so exciting. If you go to the account, you see so many smiling faces, the ones that we have permission to post. And I think that too, children have a very pure way about them, a very pure energy, a very pure smile. And to do something that's so small, such as a book, and yet so big to them, it's very rewarding even for me to be a part of it. They're a client, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, or rolling my eyes, and they're a client that I can return to and be like, yeah, I'm doing something good in the world.
Wonderful. Hey, you remind us once again where we can go to connect with Hindy's Library and be part of this amazing initiative.
Absolutely. So jump on over to our Instagram. We post all of the time about the amazing initiatives we're doing. Our DMs are always open to talk about the Females of Fiction contest or any other ideas that you have, whether it's running a book drive, whether it's learning, asking if you can donate your book. So definitely follow us on Instagram. Facebook is the same. We will post our updates, and you're always welcome to reach out to us there as well. If you have a more specific question you want to talk to Leslie, the co-founder, you can always email her at leslie@hindylibraries.org. Yeah. And maybe I can send that to Jed so he has it for the show notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Or you can go to Hindy's Libraries, just type it into your Google search bar, and it's going to come right up on this beautiful website. You can also watch their Today Show segment if you type them in the Google search bar. So I highly recommend it.
Awesome. And Brooke, why don't we tell everybody the name of your great children's book in case they want to check that out?
Sure. So my children's book is called Murray's Miraculous Mission. Since I've been very young, I've trained therapy dogs. So going into nursing homes and things like that. One day I just got inspired and decided to turn my real life stories and memories into a true children's book. I go into a lot of schools and things and the kids are like, is that real? I'm like, yes, it is. So it's all about volunteering, therapy dogs, and really just building this multi-generational culture that I think our society has really lost, the idea of older people and younger people learning and passing that wisdom back and forth.
Yeah. Hey, you're mentioning therapy dogs and service dogs. I know there are lots of places out there you can get a service dog vest for your dog after it gets trained. Do you know any place I can get an out-of-service dog vest for my dog? Because he's like pretty useless around here.
I do not know. You'll have to get one embroidered. Go to like a local shop and see if they can make one for you and maybe make it sparkly.
There you go. We've had a really great time speaking to somebody that's part of Hindy's Library. It's a fantastic initiative that's making a difference in the lives of so many kids all around the world. Our guest has been Brooke Young. Brooke, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to, answering any questions and getting people involved if they want to get involved.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are going to be continuing our discussion of how we can help kids everywhere gain access to books and become more literate with our guest, Maria Dismondi. She is the founder and publisher at Cardinal Rules Press. It's an episode you do not want to miss. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Brooke Young. Please be sure to check out Hindy's Library. Check out all the wonderful things that are happening because of the dedicated folks at Hindy's Library. I also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Ann O'Leary, Madison Dieris, Soji Franklin, Monica Rivera Sosa. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We know how busy you are, but most of all, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.